Okay, great to have you here. Hello, welcome. My name is Maike Schabowski. Well, my background is a Master of Arts in IT, and that means Italian and theater and media. But somehow I ended up in IT. It's my playground now for 25 years, roughly. Most of the time I worked in the business-related part of the game, but roughly 3 years ago, I decided to leave my beloved product marketing and move to the engineering department because the documentation team made me an offer I couldn't refuse. So, well, now I'm a documentation strategist, and this means I'm working on finding new channels for documentation, helping to standardize our tech documents across the entire company. Because it's not only us writing tech documents, but also consultants and sales engineers and so on and so forth. And then we are always looking at new options and possibilities to spread the word about what we are doing in engineering and documentation. So we are helping our engineers a lot also. Now let's have a look at the agenda for the next 60 minutes. First, I would like you to meet the doc team. Then I will talk a bit about our Docker tools and processes. Then we will dive a bit deeper into the SUSE Best Practices. And I'll let you know how you can contribute to documentation and the best practices if you want to. First, as I said, let's meet the documentation team, and here you go. That's the team, which is consisting of journalists, humanists, chemists, physicists, biologists, and yes, the one or other technical writer. Unfortunately, we couldn't bring the entire team here to SUSECON. However, you can meet some of us in the dev zone. We have a kiosk there. Our project manager, Frank Sundermeier, is with us. He's the knowing everything person. And then we have Alexandra Settle here. You can see her besides me. She's our OpenStack super expert. She's also in the board of OpenStack. And then there's Stefan Knorr with us. He's the SAP specialist in our team and one of the real technical writers. So now you might think, nice crowd, but why is that important for me? Well, I am convinced that documentation is a really essential part of a product, above all when it comes to software. Unfortunately, my opinion is not necessarily shared widespread and by everyone. To the contrary, I recently just heard people discussing like documentation as being just a cost factor or not delivering any ROI. So just some day ago, I talked to one of our consultants, and he said every software product should be so intuitively easy to be used that you don't have to provide documentation. Woo, that would be perfect. But we are not living in a perfect world, right? Isn't it? Yeah. Most products really are not usable without good documentation, especially those complex software we provide nowadays. When they are suffer from missing or poor documentation, it's really hard to work with it. So if you work in an IT department and you are the responsible person for a functioning environment and the smooth processes, this impacts your daily business and probably even the success of your business. So often enough, we get direct feedback from customers and partners and also from internal colleagues that tell us how important good documentation is. So our high-flying wish to the entire open source world is really document all the things, and we try to contribute our part here. At SUSE, we currently build on 4 pillars of documentation. There are white papers, business white papers, more marketing white papers. They are provided by the product marketing teams, and we are supporting them if they need us. We help them with the editing process. We introduced the SUSE Best Practices some year ago. They are not written by us, but they are under our responsibility. We are editing them, we are helping with some content, and we are publishing them via our toolchain. Of course, the biggest part is the product documentation as such. My team is writing it. We have currently 12 members in the documentation team and some writers in the embedded product engineering teams. And we are currently maintaining more than 12,000 pages of documentation there. And then we are also, and not a lot of people know about that, we are also developing tools for our own tool chain. Not everything is done by SUSE, but we provide some of the tools we use ourselves. So my colleagues are also developers. So the team is even doing more than just the usual documentation. For some software packages, we care for the translation coordination. We deliver technical trainings, not only about documentation, like, for example, tech writing for non-writers. We also do technical presentations like about Python or Makefile and these things, because we have really some great experts in the team. In addition, we write articles for technical magazines. And of course, we publish blogs on our own SUSE blog. But even more important, we help our engineers to publish articles within the respective publication. And we encourage them to contribute to the blogs when they have developed a great tool or are working with a special technology. And that also goes out to you. If you would like to write a guest blog, find me, I'm here. I'm happy to help you. Well, and finally, we are presenting our works at different kinds of events and conferences. Now, after we talked about what the doc team is doing, let's see how we are working. First, let me emphasize that we are publishing all our documentation under the GNU free documentation license. That means it's open source and everyone can take it and use it for their own purposes, as long as they redistribute it also under GFDL. But this is really important to know. We don't close it. You don't have to give your data to use our documentation and nothing. So you can really reuse it, make your own documentation out of it. So, well, as I joined the doc team as kind of an alien from the outside, from the marketing side, not too long ago, I really didn't spend one thought on how documentation is usually created. So I think not many people is reflecting about that. But I never, ever expected to find such a well thought out and streamlined workflow like at the documentation team. So what you see here is an overview of our workflow. Are you scared now? I hope not. And I will go a bit more in detail and explain the steps and processes that are involved here. So it all starts with a documentation request. And the requests are reaching us via different channels. We have Jira currently. We just started to use Jira. In former times we had Fate, which is a tool we developed in-house. But Jira is our Fate and our feature and requirement tool we use for the creation of our products. And there also documentation is part of the requirements. Then we work with Bugzilla, the bug tracking system. Everybody knows it, I think. This is used for our products, for product enhancements, but we use it also to request new documentation, be it chapters, entire guides, whatever. So if you have a request, if you would like to have updated certain parts of a guide, manual, whatever, if you have an idea what is missing and you would like to foster the creation of a new guide, you can use Bugzilla to let us know. Yeah, cool, very good. And then we have doc user comments, which are attached to the HTML, where you can give feedback and also request stuff, enhancements, and even new chapters or new guides, whatever. And of course, you also can contact us always directly via this easy email address, docteam at SUSE.com. So, for managing all the requests we get, we are using Trello. It's a web-based tool. It's not an open source tool, unfortunately, but it works on a freemium business model. So we organize all our projects into boards here. With Trello, we track really every request. We evaluate the requests. We accept or deny them. Sometimes we have to deny stuff. And we put up our own schedules here. And it's really the management system which gives us control over the requests. So now, where do you think does all the information for the single pieces of documentation for our software comes from? Huh? I always thought it's basically delivered by our developers. And my colleagues just sit down, get their input, and write it down in an understandable way. That would be in an ideal world. But reality, again, is really different. So we all know that software development has really tight schedules, and developers are genius. Yeah, their priority is to deliver their code in time. They are genius in delivering their code and in creating it, but not necessarily always in explaining it or writing documentation. Well, there's another challenge. Usually, you have to deliver the essential documentation guides 8 to 12 weeks in advance because they need to go to translation. So software is not ready quite often when documentation has to deliver their drafts or their hopefully near to final drafts. So my colleagues in documentation had to learn how to deal with the lack of information or with late coming information, and they made a virtue out of necessity. They started to implement virtual machines, setting up virtual machines, implement raw software, trying out the stuff, checking for bugs, whatever, and start to document from there. And really with the years they have developed an expertise there, and they have become real experts in getting up and running semi-ready hardware, software, in finding turnarounds, in even writing scripts or so themselves to make things work. And yeah, it's all to get to their goal to deliver, hopefully, excellent documentation, even if it doesn't work out always. So in parallel with the research work, by the way, is probably the biggest part of our work. It's, I'd say, 50 to 70%. It's not the writing and editing as such. It's really the research work. So in parallel with the research, we start writing our content in DocBook XML. That is our document format of choice. And no, go back. So we investigated or evaluated alternatives, but DocBook is, for our purposes, the best document format because it's modular and we can really work very well with that. It is difficult at the beginning. I had to learn it from scratch, but I'm a huge fan of it. You have to invest a bit more time to understand it because you have to tag every single thing you want to highlight with an element with a tag. However, it is much easier to maintain and update stuff when you do it really correctly from the beginning and you're not using just a markdown or there's really people writing documentation in Word or LibreOffice. Oops. So for us, we have a very modular structure of documentation in books. DocBook is the best thing to use. But we can also proceed AsciiDoc now, which is helpful with regard to collaboration with external contributors. So our guided editing is used in our XML editors. We have the free choice which editors to use. We can use a command line based editor or a graphic editor, and the variety is really huge. It goes from Oxygen to Vim, Emacs, JEdit, you name them. This picture is funny. I don't know if you recall the editor wars. This one is called Emacs versus Vim. So we also had internally a lot of discussions, and there's really nearly everyone is using another editor. So to provide a consistent documentation, we defined our documenting and writing style in our style guide. You can find it also online. Everyone can have a look at it. The style guide contains many things. For example, the structural overview of all manuals, how each different kind of manual needs to be structured. Our naming conventions, rules regarding abbreviations, explanation of tone and voice for our technical documents, which structural elements from DocBook XML to use, because we limited it. There are too many options, so we had to limit it. We defined our own terminology here, and it contains also many examples. As one example, we defined a general vocabulary. For instance, instead of using once, we say after. Instead of using while you are doing, we say when you are doing, because we have very smart people that study technical documentation, and they were told it's easier to understand and easier to follow if you have a certain terminology. So then we create our infrastructure, and we are using Git, which is really a great tool for us for version control and also for collaboration. Our engineers are using Git, and it's quite easy for them to do pull requests when they are reviewing stuff. So it's ideal for us to collaborate with them.
But it's still best if you don't comment through Git, use the Bugzilla.
Yeah, if you want to comment directly, if you are okay on looking at a documentation source, because we have everything available and open on GitHub, if you are okay on going into the XML source, you are absolutely free to do so.
Oh, okay.
Yes. You can do a pull request, and we review it, and we accept it, or we exchange some word. Yes, you can definitely do that. Just if you want to request new documentation, like for example, oh, I think there's missing a chapter about XYZ, then use Bugzilla. Yeah. And now, our superstar. Let me introduce you to the DocBook authoring and publishing suite. This tool helps us technical writers in editing and the translation and publishing process for documentation written in DocBook XML and in AsciiDoc. It is also able to process AsciiDoc documentation. This tool is a command line tool for any modern Linux system. You can also use it with Ubuntu, with Red Hat, no matter what, it works. We tried it. So this helpful tool was developed, invented, created by my colleague Frank Sundermeier. So it's one of those tools in our tool chain we made ourselves and we maintain ourselves. DUBS lets us publish our sources in several different output formats. We could do many more, but we currently focus on HTML, single HTML, EPUB, and PDF. So these are the output formats we heard from our customers that they wanted to have them. So we can do that. We could do also man pages and some other formats, but yeah. So DUBS supports the DocBook style sheets, as well as custom layouts to generate those output formats. And it also allows us to manage several key tasks relating to writing and editing. I come to that later. I just mentioned the layout, the style sheets, the XSLT style sheets. They define our layout. We have custom style sheets. For different kind of documentation, for example, book and article, we use different layouts. You have some example here. On the left hand, there's a book manual, the deployment guide. In the center, you see an article layout, which our SUSE Best Practices are using. And right hand, there is an HTML that is looking the same for every documentation. So we don't make a difference here in layout. During the entire writing and editing phase, we are frequently building our documents via DAPs. This helps us validate it for correct links, spelling, references, and all these things. So we build the documents frequently, really in all different output formats to ensure everything looks good. And of course, we also have several itinerations with peer and technical reviews and so on and so forth. You can see it here. We stuck a bit with a motto from Stephen King: to write is human, to edit is divine. Yeah, when we think we are close to a final version of our documentation or of a document, we ensure that we keep to our own language and style that we have defined in our style guide. And to do so, we have developed a tool called Style Checker, developed by a colleague, by Stefan Knorr, who is also here at SUSECON. This thingy keeps us honest. So it checks that we are not using abbreviations. It shouts out loud when you're doing so, and wordy phrases and all these things. So it helps us to enhance here. Yeah, and finally, when we have applied all the enhancements, we are ready to publish the document. So hopefully what some slide ago seemed to be a bit scary is more clear now. Over time, the team has really established a highly sophisticated workflow, and so far we always found a solution for everything, even if it was just inventing a new tool, developing a new tool. So that is how we work, and it's important to understand when you want to contribute to SUSE documentation, be it for the best practices, where we are now getting to, be it for our normal documentation, where we also encourage you to contribute. Give us feedback. Do pull requests if you want. Request new documentation. So if you know how we work, it's easier to jump on here. So now let's dive a bit deeper into the SUSE Best Practices. Did you already see those papers? No? Okay, cool. So now I would like you to imagine our IT world is the deep blue sea. Okay? We all know that a lot of treasures are hidden there in the deep blue sea. And the same is also valid for our entire IT world and the environment. So in every organization, a lot of hidden IT knowledge, experience, expertise is there. No matter if you are a system administrator, an enterprise architect, or a consultant, a sales engineer, a supporter, you work with the products on a daily basis. You implement and fine-tune the solutions. You find the best options how to install, for example, a third-party software on top of our products. You probably already found a way how to easily implement a certain setup, which might be helpful for others in their scenario, in their environment too. You might have found a solution, or you might know how to address a common problem in a repeatable manner, which is not yet documented because we don't know about it yet. So, or you work on a technology which you might think might not be from such a huge interest, but is indeed interesting for others. For every product and solution, there is a subject matter expert. Yeah? And so many projects have already been done. Proof of concepts have been conducted. Things have been implemented. And at least partly the stuff is probably already documented, but buried on a personal laptop, probably on a team server, unfortunately not yet available for customers, partners, and even SUSE internal colleagues. So, the purpose of the SUSE Best Practices is to change that situation. We want to uncover all those treasures and deliver them to our ecosystem. But to uncover them, divers are needed, And well, the SUSEDoc team, you can say we are the divers for that. We lift the treasures, we polish them with your help, and pack them into suitable packages, and then we deliver it to their final destination, which is the ecosystem. In short, our goal with the SUSE Best Practices is really to make existing knowledge and experience available to a broader audience. So we have introduced a new, well, it's about 2 years now, a special series, I would say. But why are we doing this? Answer is easy, because there's a need. We have been getting so many requests from customers mainly. Can you provide more solution-based information, technical documents, how-to guides? So at SUSE, our tagline is "We adapt, you succeed." So we really try to make possible what we can do or where we can help. And thus we decided to introduce this series. Now you might ask, what is the difference between the SUSE Best Practices? I already said it somehow. The SUSE product documentation is focusing on new products mainly. So with every new product, of course, we deliver the certain manuals, setup guides, whatever. However, the SUSE Best Practices do not adhere to new products, but mainly to products that are established in the market, where customers and partners are using them and need to go deeper and have not only setting them up, but really, yes, exactly, and set up solutions. So yeah, that's the purpose of them. It's SUSE Best Practices provide installation and implementation experiences and not just software installation usage. So this means that SUSE Best Practices describes a technical scenario or a solution that is not covered by the general SUSE documentation. Such a scenario can include third-party software and implementations done by our partners. With the SUSE product documentation, the SUSE product documentation is mainly delivered, I said it already, with a new product. By best practices, do not adhere to that. Usually the scenario or solution has been implemented, conducted, how do you say that? In a real-life scenario at a customer site. It can include, but is not limited to, a very specific setup at a customer site, but a repeatable one, installation of a third-party software, implementation even of a multi-part solution with SUSE products like cloud, storage, SLES environment, because currently we lacking even there. We describe the single products, but not how they are implemented and how they work together. So this is a big part of documentation we really need to address. So yeah, do's and don'ts are also really important. How-tos, hints, tips and tricks, troubleshooting, all those topics can be handled by a SUSE Best Practices. And we really encourage our ecosystem to contribute here. So I think I mentioned it before, the SUSE Best Practices should be replicable and adaptable. They aim to save time because they use existing knowledge for further replication. So let me emphasize it again. The SUSE documentation team cannot deliver the content here. It really needs to come from the experts outside working on the stuff, because we cannot replicate the scenarios. Think of an SAP scenario. It's impossible to really put it on a simple virtual machine and try to document it from there. So yeah, and we don't want to reinvent the wheel, because there are the experts. You are the experts. Yeah, and this means we would like to invite you to contribute here. We heavily rely on your knowledge. You are working together with SUSE consultants, sales engineers, supporters. You know which information is needed for yourself. So be sure the same information is also needed in other companies or for other partners, or when you are a SUSE colleague, you can benefit from it when you are coming newly to a product. So yeah, be a vital part of the entire open source community, be a vital part of the documentation community. I mean, not only of coding, but really documenting the stuff also. I mentioned it before, we are publishing everything under the GNU free license, document license. So you can really take the stuff one-on-one and make your own document out of it, adjust it for your needs, whatever. You are free to distribute it again. Now, if you have a topic that you would like to share, what do we do for you? Sorry. First, we coordinate all the proposals and requests to make sure that we don't duplicate stuff too much. In addition, we are here to help finalize the content. Of course, you don't have to write perfect stuff. It's just important to get the content, your knowledge. We are wording it, we are writing it, we are editing everything. We can do face-to-face interviews. We can do it via phone, go to meeting, whatever works to help you get there, to help you describe your topic. If the paper is about a scenario in your company and you are not allowed to disclose any name, of course, we can make it anonymous. We are fine-tuning it. Yeah, we care for proofreading and these things. To publish the best practices, we use our entire toolchain, which I described before. This means we put it into DocBook XML. If you are writing in AsciiDoc, even better if you dare to do it. We can proceed that directly. Yeah, we push the paper through our toolchain, and we publish the final paper on the SUSE web page. Currently, the web page is a static thing. We don't like that, but this will be changed mid of year. So in the past, we were depending from Micro Focus, and we are now taking over the documentation publication server in the doc team as our own thing, and we are more free to create different sections, and you know, it's not static anymore, it's searchable in future, and so on and so forth. We promote and market the papers that you contribute. We use our entire promotional machinery we have, so I will write blogs about it, we put it on social media, so anything you can imagine, news briefs, whatever, it will be pushed out. And again, we publish them in the 4 different formats. One thing, best practices currently are provided only in English. So if you would like to have a translation, sometimes it's important for certain countries. I don't know how it is in Brazil. I think you can deal with English.
Yeah, the reading is good.
Okay, reading, okay, sounds good. Yeah. Well, there are other countries, they will not contribute, like it's difficult, it's more difficult in China, for example. You have to provide stuff in the language. Okay, so now if you ask yourself, should I really raise hand and share my ideas? I just can encourage you, yes, please, I repeat it. Contribution is easy. When you, for example, use AsciiDoc, you can, I think it's on the next slide, you can directly edit in Git when you use AsciiDoc, because Git has the great functionality to render the text in a structured format. Yeah, not completely, but it's easier than with a markdown text or with XML. So you can see it, you can check it right in Git, how it looks like.
LibreOffice will save DocBook. Is it the same thing? Is it not that good? Or
No.
it is not.
No. Mm-mm. But we realized that with AsciiDoc we get more contributions, for example, from our sales engineers, from our alliances, the technical alliances. They write a lot of documents like together with big partners. They have to write reference guides, architecture, design papers, and all these things. And they use AsciiDoc more and more. And yeah, it works really well. So great collaboration here. So, but anyways, you can send your content in whatever format you like. We take everything, even simple email texts, because we can process it via DocBook anyways. The benefits, I think they are huge. First of all, why should we reinvent the wheel if there's people out that has the knowledge? You get access to so much more detailed additional information. So if you share your experience, you can also benefit from the knowledge of others. You can respond much faster to new requirements in the market and increase your customer satisfaction. You can learn faster about new technologies and implement them yourself. You can create joint high-quality papers and use them yourself for your own purposes. We can also make them really jointly with logo and whatever, so you are also there as the author of a paper. And you can, of course, I mentioned it before, use our promotional machinery. And then we have also usually a nice limited SUSE gift. Currently we have the huge, really 1 meter big chameleons, not those that you can buy in the shop downstairs. They are limited to 100 worldwide. Yep. So think about it. Now, if you want to propose a topic or contribute in whatever form to the SUSE Best Practices or to the SUSE documentation, you use Bugzilla as we discussed before. You can reach out, send an email to the doc team. You can also send an email directly to me. I'm happy to have a conversation with you. You can contact the SUSE account executive or partner executive. So there are many ways to reach us, to find us, and we will, I promise, we will respond. You can have a look at the SUSE Best Practices here at /documentation SUSE Best Practices. There are already quite some examples. We have many papers about SAP, which is important. We are lacking papers about storage and mainly the new products like CASP and CAP, and would love to see more contributions here. At this point, let me re-emphasize it. There are a lot of treasures hidden in our IT world. Help us lift them to the benefit of our entire ecosystem. So if you want to meet or hear more about the documentation, we are, I mentioned it before, in the dev zone. We have a kiosk there. We have office hours, officially those of the tech showroom, but you can find us much longer there. Come talk to us, give us feedback, fill out the survey, and you can win him each day one. And that's really the giant chameleon, the 1 meter thingy. I couldn't bring it here. You will get shipped it directly from Germany. And then we have, for the very first time, the doc day, a documentation day on Friday. The attendance is free and open for everyone. You don't have to be a writer. In the contrary, we just want to rely on your knowledge and your expertise. We ask you to register. We have a luxury problem. Originally, so we split up in work groups. It's a room with round tables. Originally, we planned to cap the number to 12 or 15 people maximum by work group. We have 4 work groups, and we have about 70 registered people now. But anyways, we make it happen. If you're interested to join us, we make it happen. And now, to put it in Forrest Gump's words, that's all I have to say about that. Thank you very much for your attention. And you know where to find me. I'm eager to hear your feedback. Help us spread the word. Share it with your colleagues. Share it with other customers, with partners, whatever. Okay, we are here, and we really want to get feedback. We cannot improve if we don't get the feedback from the ecosystem. Thank you very much.
Talking about, let's say, the SUSE employees and partners, okay, not, say, the entire set of SUSE users. If
Yes.
Right? And let's say the sales guy, probably, of course, is more focused on
Selling.
sales than probably sharing something that they know and so on. Do you have any kind of internal program to make them more attractive to them to do such?
Yeah. So that's a really good question because we were just yesterday discussing exactly that. So currently we do have only that incentive, that giveaway, that incentive, but we will be sharing a partners program where you can earn points, where you get training courses or other things.
Kind of gamification.
Yes, exactly. So we were just discussing that yesterday, that is the plan, because we know that time is really valuable, and it's, even if you would like to contribute in the spirit of open source, it's really, for many people, hard to snip out the time for it. And you need to have some incentive, some reward, some benefit, some extra benefit. So we will join that program. I'm not sure exactly when this will happen, but it will be this year. Yeah. Thank you for the question, because it's really good.
A few things. SUSE.com, when you go to look for documentation, and you pick your product. Best practices, I haven't seen linked there.
Yeah.
Is there a link?
There's a link. The first link on the SUSE documentation page is the best practices. And then it goes on a sub-page. And the sub-page is split by categories. It's not really products. Well, it is enterprise Linux. It's SAP has an own section because it's so much. It's systems management in general. It is, so we have, it's virtualization. It is really split because you cannot split it in products because often you have multi-tier solution papers. And you will also see that sometimes a paper is listed twice if it fits under virtualization and systems management, for example.
And if they search in a knowledge base, do they also see? Do they just
No,
see the TID?
no. Yeah, you only see the TID. But this will all be changing with time. So in future, you can at least search the documentation much better on Google, and you get all, documents and best practices. And we also currently are trying to foster another search engine that lets you find TIDs, documentation, articles, technical articles when you search them. So the huge vision is really to have a great search engine that gives you all those documents.
I see a lot of times, I haven't been part of a beta program with SUSE, I have with others, but a lot of times we'll see, in GitHub the beta documentation in its early phases.
Yes.
Prior, right? Are they encouraging the beta testers to review the
Yes,
documentation?
definitely. And not only the beta testers. So we are publishing our beta or draft documentation on a special server. We call it DocServe, and it's on Git.io.
Okay, good.
So you can look it up there, you can review it, you can give input directly there, and we encourage really, even while we are writing, we have nothing to hide. If we write stupid things, we want to get the feedback to enhance it, to improve it.
My message back to my engineer is going to be, hey, when we're reviewing the products,
Yes.
check the documentation.
Yes.
Any issues, give me the feedback then, so you know prior to release if there's an issue.
Yes, definitely, that's great, really. We take any help, any review, any, hand, because it's really in our, it's our goal to enhance the documentation daily, to provide what the world needs from us, but we cannot do it alone anymore with all those complex products and solutions. Yeah, cool. Yeah, thank you.
One more question.
Yeah.
Do you have any kind of, let's say, life cycle control in your documents? When you say, for example, a document may not even be more valid any longer or something like that, or you just let this for people to realize and get back to you? I don't think.
We have a maintenance branch, so we are branching the documentation like the GitHub model, And we are working on maintenance branches, and we are updating the documentation on, I wouldn't say on a regular basis, but somehow in an iteration. But it happens, we don't have a real life cycle control there, so it happens that chapters might be outdated. Yeah. And then we are thankful for any help again. If sometimes it's just, that we don't even know that a certain functionality might not be available anymore in a new version, and then we have an outdated paragraph or chapter on it, which is still there, and we would be grateful if somebody would tell us, oh no, this is, remove it or update it or so, yeah. Okay, thank you very much.